Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we look at more inductees into the MSSU Regional Media Hall of Fame. We begin with Black-owned newspapers, a unique part of Joplin's history. The newspaper industry is evolving in today's world with a strong presence on the internet and social media. But in the 19th and early 20th centuries, newspapers were the primary source of information and communication. And that was true in Joplin. We recognize the role of Black-owned newspapers in serving the community and efforts to create connection between all races. Howard Nunley helps us uncover the history.
Located in the heart of Joplin, Missouri, a small family-owned newspaper began as a humble source of hometown information. As the paper's readership grew over the years, it was transformed into a community cornerstone, embracing the virtues of change, justice, and unity for the citizens of Joplin. This is the story of the Joplin Uplift. For many years of Joplin's history, the local newspapers were published by and for white readers, with little, if any, content for the city's Black residents. In 1870, there were only 138 Black residents in all of Jasper County. After Joplin's founding, 3 years later, more Black people began to arrive seeking work. It was during this period that Pittsburgh, Kansas resident and attorney W.L. Yancey created the first known newspaper for Black citizens, the Joplin Advance. Today, only one surviving copy of the Advance exists, preserved on microfilm at the State Historical Society. Dated to May of 1895, the paper is, in fact, the very first issue and opens with a salutation from Yancey. The message urges local businesses to support his newspaper. At the time, Yancey did not expect Joplin's white residents to subscribe, and thus he was dependent on not only Black subscribers, but also Black-owned businesses to generate revenue for his paper. Ultimately, the Joplin Advance would not last very long, going out of print sometime before 1900. However, Yancey's efforts would lay the groundwork for a future Black-owned newspaper in Joplin, one which would have a far greater impact on the local community. First printed in 1926, the Joplin Uplift took its name from the concurrent racial uplift movement. The movement was founded on the idea of empowering Black Americans through education, communication, and involvement.
It was a paper that was published here in Joplin by Augustus Tutt and his wife Fanny, and it was the only paper at the time published in Joplin for our local Black community.
Augustus Tutt first came to Joplin in 1912. He got his start working as a waiter at the Connor Hotel alongside another influential member of the Black community in Joplin, Charles Cuther. Cuther and his wife Melissa briefly published their own newspaper, The Afro-American Leader, around 1917. Under Cuther's leadership, Tutt served as the secretary of the Waiters Relief Fund Association. During the First World War, Tutt traveled to Europe as a member of the 805th Pioneer Infantry, nicknamed the Bearcats. More than a century later, a surviving copy of Tutt's unit yearbook was purchased by Nanda Nunnally, president of the Minnehackney Community Service Center and chair of the Unity and Diversity Committee for the Missouri Democratic Party.
His name, Augustus G. Tutt, in his own handwriting, and it lists his name, his enlistment date of August 1st, 1918. He was 27 at that time. It also asks his greatest experience, and he has written Hungary, the country of Hungary, when he was in Hungary. And then his proudest moment, it says, when discharged. Ha ha.
After returning home in 1919, Tutt married Fanny Waite, a future school teacher at Lincoln Elementary. Their son, Garvin, was born in 1924, and their daughter, Evelyn, in 1926. Around the time of his second child's birth, Tutt first conceived of the idea for the Uplift.
he and his wife then, in the late 20s, they started a newspaper here in town called the Joplin Uplift. It was more than just a name. The Uplift it was called the Racial Uplift Movement, that was kind of centered around the idea that the way to bring blacks at the time out of some of the issues that they were having just being in our country was through education and being involved in politics and those type of things. And his idea, I think, was the best way to do that was through a newspaper. The people could find out what's happening in other parts of the country and also right here in our local areas.
Many readers felt connected to the local stories the Joplin Uplift told. While the Tuts still included important national news, the Uplift also gave its subscribers information about people close to them, friends, neighbors, and community members. Mr. Earl Frost has returned from a business trip in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Reverend E.A. Graham left Monday for California, Missouri to attend a district meeting at the M.E. Church. Mrs. H.S. Reedy has reported much improved after several weeks of illness. In this issue, a grieving wife has published an elegy for her departed husband. When we saw our darling drifting from this world of joy and woe, our hearts were filled with sorrow to think he had to go. We asked our Heavenly Father to hear our plea that we might keep him, but alas, it could not be.
So, imagine back then, I'm sure, just to have your name in the newspaper, and especially as a black or brown person, that was big, In one of the most recent, editions that we were able to locate of the Uplift newspaper, Melissa Cuther is on the front page. And it's talking about her work with Ewart Park at that time. She was the park supervisor at that time.
There was information about local things happening, but also information on, much wider, greater level, like national politics and things like that as well. And it looks like some of the stories were probably written by an organization that would share stories, kind of like how we see today from the AP. Oh, you have Los Angeles, Detroit, New Jersey. Then on the front, we have stuff that's more regional, Sedalia, but then there's New York. And then here we have, this is sort of the city briefs, is the equivalent of the society section.
Jill Halbach, director of the Post Art Library in Joplin, reviews some of the few surviving physical copies of the Joplin Uplift, on loan from local resident and longtime curator of Black history in Joplin, Betty Smith.
So as far as the physical preservation of papers go, it is always difficult. The best way to preserve papers, newspapers, is microfilm still. And there are copies of the Uplift preserved through the State Historical Society in Missouri. August 17th, 1928 is when this one came out, and at that time the price of the paper was only 5 cents. And it says up here in the corner, 3rd year. It also says a newspaper without choice or favor. So often the idea behind some African American papers were to try to better unite the white and black communities.
The more that they could do to unify the communities, the better.
The Joplin Uplift certainly succeeded in appealing to subscribers of all races. In this excerpt, the Tuts mention that their readership in Webb City requires 150 papers every week, even though there were only 3 or 4 black families living there at the time. While the Tuts did strive to provide a platform for black residents with the Uplift, they also sought to provide pertinent and engrossing news for anyone who would read their paper.
You've got all of these articles about, different things in the black community, and then here's this this section talking about the birth of John Barrymore, the famous actor's daughter. And but that was something that, you know, I'm sure John Barrymore was a very, very prominent actor at that time. And so, of course, everyone would have been interested to know what, you know, about the birth of his daughter. So,
unfortunately, the unification ideals of the Joplin Uplift were not shared by society as a whole, even among the black community. In this December 1928 issue of the Joplin Globe, it's mentioned that Augustus Tutt was attacked by a local man after asking him to subscribe to the Uplift. The Tutts sought support through advertising from both white and black-owned businesses.
As you have a paper that's geared toward the local African American community, but then you still need advertisers to advertise in the paper. And at the time that it was printed, people in our local black community couldn't go into a lot of places here because of segregation.
Despite these challenges, the Uplift proved to be very successful. In its lifetime, the newspaper appears in the city directories for 5 years, longer than any other local black newspapers in Joplin. The Tutts would later branch out to include other nearby communities.
so it started out basically as the Joplin Uplift, and then he increased it to be Joplin Springfield. So they were able to then kind of loop in the Springfield community as well.
The Uplift would ultimately go out of print in 1931, not long after the onset of the Great Depression.
It's hard to run a newspaper if you don't have people advertising. It's hard to run a newspaper if you don't have subscribers. So all of those things had to come together for him to be able to keep that newspaper going.
Even after the end of the Uplift, Tutt continued to play an active role for the Joplin community.
His home is also listed in the Green Book as a home for people to be able to stay. Black people, when they were traveling at that time, couldn't stay in hotels, so his home is also listed there.
The Green Book served as a travel guide for black Americans, describing welcoming and non-discriminating homes during the times of segregation. Tragically, Augustus Tutt would pass away from heart disease in 1933, less than a week before his 42nd birthday. More than 90 years later, he rests peacefully at Fairview Cemetery on Maiden Lane. Though Mr. Tutt may be gone, his family legacy still endures.
Fanny Tutt went on, she married a man later, after Augustus passed away, she married a man by the name of Walter Eccles. So she became Fanny Eccles. And Miss Fanny Eccles, she was one of the founders of the Negro Service Council, which is now the Mini Hackney Community Service Center. She also taught at Lincoln School.
For many years, the Lincoln School was a designated facility for black students during the period of segregation. It was also often utilized as a community center for black residents. Eccles would also serve as a Sunday school superintendent for Joplin's handy AME Chapel, seen here on downtown 4th Street.
Fanny's son, his name was Garvin Augustus Tutt. They kind of switched it around, AG to GA. GA Tutt, he went on to become a very, very decorated colonel, and then moved to California and had 2 daughters, Barbara and another daughter. And Barbara, of course, serves us now as a United States Congresswoman from California. When I had the chance to meet Congresswoman Barbara Lee, when I told her that I was from Joplin, the first thing she said was, "My grandmother lived at 901 Missouri Street." And I just thought it was so funny. She remembered that. She remembered the address of her grandmother's house because they would come here to visit.
In 2022, Nunley led a drive to create a mural dedicated to black history and performing arts. Painted by artist Alexander Austin and located in downtown Joplin, the mural features famous performers who visited Joplin during the height of their careers. Among those pictured are the Joplin-born Langston Hughes, Scott Joplin, and the legendary Duke Ellington. Nunley played an important role in including the Uplift's name in the artwork.
I wanted us to say the name. You know, for so many years, people had no idea about it. Just like seeing those faces up there, people didn't know that Sammy Davis Jr. performed in Joplin. People didn't know that Ella Fitzgerald performed in Joplin. But people didn't know that there was a newspaper called the Joplin Uplift that served our community and the Springfield community for, quite a few years. And to me, that was the most important thing, that people know, that people say it.
As we remember and celebrate the history and legacy of the Joplin Uplift, Nunley encourages everyone to follow in the Tut's footsteps.
He put his mind to it, and he wanted to serve his community in that way. So I think the most important thing that we can learn from Augustus Tutt is that, you find a need in the community, you fill it. He felt like that was his calling, and I'm just so very thankful.
At the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, Nanda Nunley accepted the award on behalf of the Black History of the Ozarks Preservation Society, for which she is the president. Here are her comments.
Thank you, Nanda, for your amazing support and research in this topic. In recognition of the efforts of Augustus and Fanny Tutt, Charles and Melissa Cuther, and W.L. Yancey, we welcome the Joplin Uplift, the Joplin Advance, and the Afro-American Leader into the Regional Media Hall of Fame.
I just want to also, again, say that the Tutt family continues to serve their communities and our country, and they also would like to thank you all for this. Thank you.
Hello from the studios of KGCS TV. I'm Lydia Carlson, a communications major here at Missouri Southern. We're making lots of changes to modernize the TV station and bring you better quality video and content. But we need your help. We want to find out how you watch KGCS and what you like to watch. So we'd like you to take a quick questionnaire. It's as simple as holding your phone over the QR code on your screen. That code takes you to a link where you will see a short survey. If QR codes aren't for you, find a link to the survey on our Facebook page. Thanks for watching KGCS TV.
Our last but not least new member of the Regional Media Hall of Fame is KSNF Vice President and General Manager John Hoffmann. He has spent decades working in broadcasting in the region. Here's a tribute.
Call it a Hall of Fame year for John Hoffmann. Last month, he was inducted into Webb City's Athletic Hall of Fame. This year marks 40 years in broadcasting for John, all in this market.
He's just a first-class guy. You know, he's a guy that I truly thankful to be able to call him a friend.
A little more than a decade ago, John started the Golden Lion Award, a scholarship program at Missouri Southern that has awarded more than $100,000 to local students who excel in community and service to others.
Let's honor those kids. Let's recognize those kids that have made a difference through volunteering, through service to the community, to service to people that really, that need help. And so, or looking for, people to do that work that not a lot of people, really want to do. So, we felt like this was just an opportunity to honor those kids that serve their community, serve their schools, serve their churches. And, we had BIMDIC and with us, we each put money toward the scholarship. And, it just has grown to be something that I hope. Now, BIMDIC no longer does it, but A.E. Williams does it, but we still It's something that we look forward to doing. It's really something that has won a Missouri Broadcasters Award for scholastic type program. I mean, it's just something that is part of what we do, and it, you know, to be able to give scholarships to these kids to help, you know, them with their college education. I mean, it's a great program, and you know, we feel like that we have a great partner with Missouri Southern in doing this. So it just was kind of born out of a, you know, what can we do to you know, help kids that help others.
John is one of those guys that, you know, Nexstar, we have all these foundations and all these community service projects that we do to become part of the community, because it is about local news. And that's what John loves. He loves our Founders Day of Caring. He really implores our anchors to go out there and be a part of the community.
Well, I think it's important that you give back to the local community. We're a local television station. We're supported by local businesses. We're supported by local viewers. And I think it's important that your people, you know, give back to the local community that we serve. And so I've always encouraged them to be involved, to host events, to be on boards, to really give back, you know, and be an important part of a community that's provided so much for the TV station that, because without local viewers, without the local community, without local businesses, we don't exist. And so it's got to be a give and take relationship. And so it's important for us to give back. And we, you know, that's not just my philosophy, that's Nexstar, that's Perry's philosophy is that, you know, maybe we are a large company, but we are a local TV station.
John has always been about community and service to others, helping to lead our shop every year in Nexstar's Founders Day of Caring. He championed our stations through a retransmissions battle, a collapsed tower, complete building overhaul, not to mention the tornado.
As fantastic of a general manager as John is, he's an even better friend. His love for his family and his community are really what makes John so successful.
You know, I've known John for probably, oh gosh, the better part of 30 years, 35 maybe. He was general manager when I left in, gosh, the late 90s, early 2000s. And, you know, he hired me back, and he's just a spectacular boss.
You know, I don't sit in my office, you know, I'm a walk around manager, you know, I'm out, you know, and I don't care, I'm out in the building talking to people. I think that I want this to be some place that people want to come to work. I mean, you're not gonna make everyone happy, I understand that. I try, you know, we try, but I just wanted to make it you know, my philosophy was never ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, which, you know, if I gotta dump the trash, I will, if I gotta, you know, so, but really the bigger thing is just make sure that people understand that they're appreciated, regardless of the job they're doing. Every job is important. You know, if everyone's job doesn't get done, then we don't get on the air. So, you know, my philosophy has always just been, hey, treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't ask people to do anything you wouldn't be willing to do themselves, and just create an atmosphere that people can thrive, learn, grow, be successful, you know, make money, all of those things.
He's sat on and chaired numerous local boards, as well as chairing the state board of Missouri Broadcasters last year.
It's important for, you know, people to be involved with that organization, because for stations like ours that have unlimited resources, you know, it's still good to be involved, but they provide such a service to the smaller groups, the smaller stations that don't have the legal, you know, structure that the bigger groups have. And I just felt like that this was, again, an industry that had been very good to me, so I wanted to be a part of the Missouri Broadcasters, just so I could, you know, give back to, the industry that's been so good to me.
And then, as Leisha mentioned, there's family. John has always celebrated his, a lot of times doing so while they're all celebrating the Chiefs. If you know him, you know he's a big Chiefs fan. And we are all fans of our Hall of Fame leader and friend.
Hoffmann also made comments at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Let's take a listen.
In recognition of your decades of leadership and continued support of students of the area, we welcome you to the Regional Media Hall of Fame.
I do want to make one thing clear, that the picture with the guy in the red shirt with the tattoo on his arm was not me. I do not have any tattoos, I promise. I'm standing up here because I'm living proof that if you stay someplace long enough, someone's going to give you an award. So I guess in 40 years, I think it was time that I got one. So I certainly appreciate it. It's an honor. And, I know or worked with almost everyone that's on that table over there. And really and truly, I'm here. I stand here for there's two reasons that I'm here. And one of them is that I have worked with a lot of great people in those 40 years. Wonderful journalists, dedicated employees, production people, salespeople, managers. This isn't possible for me if it wasn't for all of the people that have helped make the stations that I've worked at successful. So really, this is an award for all of them. The second reason I'm here is because 26 years ago, a guy came to Joplin and said, "Hey, I'm starting a new company." And he shared his vision of what his company looked like and offered me a job at KSN, and that was Perry Sook, who is the CEO, founder, chairman of the board of Nexstar Broadcasting, Nexstar Media Group. And his vision came true. It was a life-changing decision that I made to come to work for him. And had it not been for that opportunity, I probably would not be standing here. So thank you very much for accepting me, honoring me with this award. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
That wraps up this Hall of Fame edition of Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.